What is native biodiversity?
What? Native biodiversity.
Native,
Biodiversity? Never heard of it.
bio,
I have no idea.
diversity, is that what you're saying?
Something to do with Native Americans fitting into the environment?
What is native biodiversity? Well, biodiversity means the variety of life. Plants, animals, bacteria, everything that's alive, including people. Native biodiversity, for us, means all the different life forms that occur naturally, right here in Pennsylvania. When we talk about native biodiversity, we're usually talking about different kinds of species. That's species diversity. Scientists study biodiversity on two other levels, genetic and community. Genetic diversity refers to the differences between individuals in the same species, the differences that make every individual unique. Sometimes genetic diversity is easy to see, and sometimes it isn't. Community diversity refers to the groups of species that live and grow in the same area, or habitat. The ways plants and animals in the same area rely on each other are important. Their interaction drives the nutrient and energy flows in a community. Their interaction keeps the ecosystem healthy. Pennsylvania's natural communities fall into 5 major habitat types: wetlands, barrens, caves, aquatic habitats, and Pennsylvania's most common natural habitat, forests. The oak tree feeds the squirrel, and the squirrel plants the oak seed. That's a simple example of community interaction. Many of nature's interactions are much more complex, and we're just starting to understand them. An ecosystem's ability to run itself and sustain its inhabitants, including people, is more than just the bits of information each species represents. An ecosystem's function depends on countless connections among its individual components. Just like in a computer or a machine, if we remove one part, we might undo a whole network of connections. The system might still work, but it doesn't work nearly as well as it could or should. The net effect stretches way beyond the simple act of removing a part.
Hi, is my car done yet?
Yes, ma'am. I cleaned the injectors, replaced your PVC valve. You're good to go.
So what are these parts here on the floor?
Those parts? I don't know what they do, so I took them out. Less for you to worry about.
What?
That's not the kind of tinkering Aldo Leopold had in mind, but it's the kind of tinkering we do with nature. We reduce our native biodiversity, and that's not good. We are connected to nature in ways we're just beginning to understand. We ignore or remove a part because we don't know what it is or what it does. We are one strand in what is often called the web of life. just like a spider's web. A strand can be cut here and there, and the web is still useful. But if too many strands are cut, or if key strands are cut, the entire web is as good as gone. In nature, the strands upon which the entire web is built are called the cornerstone species. They are the plants and animals that play a dominant role in their communities. And what we're discovering is that very often, the most unassuming species play the most important roles.
The mushroom is the reproductive structure of the mycorrhizal fungus. The fungus extracts nutrients, mineral nutrients from the soil, and then transports them through the fungus into the plant root. And then the plant root takes those mineral nutrients and transports them throughout the plant for the plant's own metabolism, its own use. In most forest ecosystems, the soils are heavily laden and heavily infected with the mycorrhizal fungus. The fungus component of the mycorrhiza is invisible. It is nonetheless the basis or the foundation for the development of the forest and the forest ecosystem. Trees that do have that mycorrhiza are very healthy. They grow nearly twice as much, if not more, than those who do not have it. So in a real sense, fungi probably are keystone in that regard, in that they are maintaining and providing for the health of the tree and thus the health of the entire forest ecosystem.
Here in Pennsylvania and elsewhere, we're starting to see the big picture. We can explain only a few of the details, but we do know that biodiversity keeps our environment stable. Complexity acts like a buffer against all kinds of disturbances. Without complexity, changes in our natural environment produce drastic results. The more communities and species and genes we have in our ecosystems, the better they can survive change and stress. Pennsylvania's story of the chestnut, the oak, and the white-tailed deer is a good example of what can happen when biodiversity decreases, when populations rise or fall beyond reasonable limits. It's a simple chain of events, one that we can understand.
Chestnut was a very versatile tree. A study that was done in 1912 polled all of the sawmills in Pennsylvania, and over 1,000 mills were cutting chestnut, and they reported over 200 different products that were made from the lumber of chestnut. It was not only a valuable lumber species, but it was very valuable for wildlife. It produced a very edible nut for both humans and wildlife, and unlike oak and hickory, it produced nuts almost every year. So it was a reliable food supply for both man and wildlife. But when the chestnut blight went through, not only a very highly usable wood was lost, but a very valuable one for wildlife and man. And the chain of events started in 1904 when the chestnut blight fungus was discovered in the New York Zoological Park. The fungus appeared in Pennsylvania in the southeastern part of the state in 1909. By 1920, it had reached the Ohio line. And so that by the mid-20s, almost all the chestnut in Pennsylvania was dead. The oak that took place of the chestnut created almost what you would call a monoculture.
Because we had both the chestnut and the oak growing in our forests, we overcame the loss of the chestnut. But what if we lose the oak? Other woodland species will suffer, and so will we. You see, with just one tree that produces good wood and good food, the loss of the oak will be even more devastating than the loss of the chestnut. There won't be another tree that can assume the roles of the chestnut and the oak. Acorns are a large part of the diet of squirrels and other animals such as chipmunks, turkeys, blue jays, and white-tailed deer. Oaks rely on many of these animals to bury some of the acorns they gather. In years when the acorn crop is plentiful, some of the nuts will stay buried all winter. In the spring, they'll sprout into oak seedlings. Leftover acorns ensure the continuance of oak trees and, when you think about it, squirrels and other animals too. White-tailed deer eat acorns, but they don't bury them. The more deer, the fewer acorns for other animals and fewer acorns for new oak trees. Deer don't stop with acorns. They also eat oak seedlings that have sprung up from acorns planted by other animals. Now, the deer's feeding habits are not necessarily bad. After all, this beautiful creature is doing what nature intended it to do, in an ecosystem where it naturally belongs. The problem lies in the number of deer that now live in parts of Pennsylvania. The white-tailed deer is a source of great controversy in our state. Deer are a valuable game species in Pennsylvania. They are also beautiful to look at, and many people would like to see more of them. Earlier this century, white-tailed deer nearly disappeared from Pennsylvania, so we tried to save them. That effort was such a huge success that today, white-tailed deer populations are too high in some areas. They're eating our natural communities out of house and home.
I don't believe we'll see the oaks disappear. I think what we will see over the next 40 to 50 years is a reduction in the amount of oak that we have. Economically, it's going to have an impact because oak is very valuable and certainly more valuable than red maple, the main species that's taking its place. The disappearance of the oak will have an impact on turkey and grouse and deer in that they rely very heavily on the mast or acorns that are produced. And we won't find as much heavy mast in the forest 50, 60 years from now when there's less oak.
Pennsylvania's economy relies heavily on its natural resources. Forests are the basis of a $4 billion a year wood products industry. Pennsylvania's natural beauty and wildlife attract visitors from all over the world. For hunting, fishing, recreation, and tourism. These activities add at least another $2.5 billion a year to Pennsylvania's economy. And most of our businesses and industries, to one extent or another, depend on our state's natural abundance. We use only a fraction of the species out here, but the species we need many other species in ways we don't yet understand. We still have lots of different kinds of plants and animals in Pennsylvania. Some people think we might have as many as 20,000 different species. But that's just a guess. No one really knows for sure. What we do know is that we don't have as many native plants and animals as we used to. That should concern all of us, no matter where we live. Not only because we might lose the plants and animals we use directly, but because the loss of native biodiversity is an indicator that all is not well in our world.
Arnold Edward Artman, formerly of the Carnegie Museum of Natural History, looked at the mouth of several creeks in the Allegheny Basin. 35 species at the mouth of the creek, as he reported it in 1919 in his monograph of freshwater bivalves of Pennsylvania. You go out there today, you may find one species in the Asian clam. That's it. 95% decline in freshwater mussels. They provide food for river otters, for raccoons, and muskrats. They're good water quality indicator organisms. They're a natural filterer. They remove bacteria. They remove fine particulate organic material from the water. They play a certain role in cleaning the water column. And if you take that out, you've taken another major piece of the puzzle out of the aquatic ecosystem.
Soil erosion, pollution from lawns, streets, industry, and farm fields. Even cows in the creek. They all contribute to the degradation of our rivers and streams. Fencing, planting, And fewer chemicals on fields and lawns can make this stream a clean and healthy environment for all kinds of aquatic plants and animals. These protective measures can help make this a clean and healthy environment for us, too, and can add to our enjoyment of the stream, wherever it flows. Pennsylvania's subterranean habitats, caves, are another habitat type that needs to be protected.
We have boulder number 1, number 2, and number 3.
We've turned numerous caves into commercial attractions. Other caves are open to unlimited exploration. With too many people in caves, the unique species that live there are suffering. Bats are the best known example of a species group that's declining because of human intrusion.
One bat can take 600 to 800 insects in 1 hour. We have a bat colony in north central Pennsylvania that over the course of a summer probably consumes in the tons of insects, which, I mean, we're talking trillions of insects here. So I'd say the primary reason bats are in trouble in the state of Pennsylvania is that they're found in these relatively few concentrations, either at maternity sites in buildings or in hibernating sites in caves and mines. And in those situations, concentrated, they can be disturbed or maliciously killed by somebody ignorant of the value of bats.
Other animals that use or need caves include wood rats, bears, and blind cavefish. Putting a gate over the entrance to a cave is a simple way to limit human access and protect a priceless natural community. Barrens provide special habitats for some unique species.
A barren, such as you see here, is a very distinct habitat, distinct to the point that most plants simply can't exist on this kind of environment, largely due to the fact that the shale fragments are baked to such a heat extent, very hot. So it's a community, roughly from south central Pennsylvania through the Virginias to roughly Roanoke, Aranto, Blacksburg, Virginia, which holds home to about 17 or thereabouts distinct species of flowering plants unknown to grow anywhere else.
Wetlands are home to a number of highly specialized and often rare plants and animals. We used to think of wetlands as sloppy, useless mosquito breeding areas. Now we understand that besides being highly productive habitats, wetlands also provide valuable services to people.
Well, here in Pennsylvania, wetlands are a very scarce component of our landscape and have high values for fish and wildlife, for flood control, and for water quality. For example, just about everything that creeps or crawls, swims or flies uses wetlands in Pennsylvania at some portion of their life cycle. There is a substantial amount of filling, both permitted and via unauthorized activities, that goes on in Pennsylvania and throughout the country. Over time, we've lost 56% of Pennsylvania's wetlands, and that is by no means a low figure.
As Pennsylvania's human population has grown, native biodiversity has decreased. We're now 12 million strong in this state. As our standard of living has risen, the impact of each person on our natural resources has increased. And as we create habitats for ourselves, we deprive many of our native plants and animals of the habitats they need.
What was once wildlife habitat is now human habitat. Many small and often unique habitats that supported special and rare species have disappeared. Natural habitats that once stretched for miles have been broken up into little patches. That's called habitat fragmentation, and it's especially noticeable in our forests.
Do we get rid of our farms and homes and factories and roads? Of course not. We need them.
and we're part of the ecosystem too.
Agriculture, industry, and development have become necessary for survival. Where and how we live is our choice. But maybe we could all learn how to make better choices. Planned development, such as homes and businesses in one area, surrounded by natural open space, is an idea that's catching on. It's one way we can assume our rightful place in the landscape without ruining our priceless ecosystems. We have many opportunities, on our own and in partnerships with local and state governments and businesses, to conserve our state's native biodiversity. If we consider Pennsylvania's woodlands alone, nearly 3/4 of our forests are privately owned. Given the extent of private land ownership in this state, it's clear that our choices as private citizens really do make a difference.
We know we're losing native biodiversity in Pennsylvania, and in many cases we know why. But how do we conserve it? Here's what one person in Pennsylvania did.
It's 180 acres of really, I consider to be very abused farmland, fallow fields, and they tried to work it to its peak, and it was probably never productive. As I looked around, I saw evidence that there was wetland plants scattered here and there, and I began to realize it was probably hydric soil, and I checked it, and it was, and recognized it would make a wonderful wetland, which it probably was historically. Because of the fact that we have water on this land now, impounded water, we've put in so many different plants, we've increased the plant diversity, okay, enormously. So what that does in turn is it influences the insects, which influence the birds, and the plants, of course, you know, selectively create habitat for certain mammals like muskrat. That attracted predators like mink. And with all our willow plantings along little creeks along here, we attracted beaver. So what you had before was simply fallow fields with old forbs and herbs, and now you have fields that are abundant in diversity. I created for species that are having a tough time surviving and those that are dependent on wetlands. And with wetlands disappearing, these species are becoming more and more difficult to find. So when you stop to look at it, like with birds, I think that probably of those that are of special concern in Pennsylvania, probably 60, perhaps 70% are wetland-dependent species. So we provide habitat and we attract them in like magnets.
Even if you don't own 1 square inch of land, you can still help conserve Pennsylvania's native biodiversity. Open your eyes and ears and mind to the natural world around you, from the smallest organism to the largest landscape. Be aware, get informed, get involved with native biodiversity conservation in your community. Ask your local, county, and state officials what they're doing to conserve native biodiversity. Tell them to support the kinds of plans and decisions that will help keep people, plants, and animals in Pennsylvania healthy, wealthy, and diverse.
As a society, we can choose to live off nature's interest or off its principle. We can choose to leave the next generation with the natural abundance we inherited, or we can leave them with a legacy of misuse that can lead to ecological crisis. It's up to all of us. It's up to you. It's your choice.
Make the choice to help conserve Pennsylvania's native biodiversity. Do it for yourself, for your children, and their children. Do it for life in all its wondrous forms. Want to know more? Get a free copy of A Heritage for the 21st Century, Conserving Pennsylvania's Native Biological Diversity. Call or write to Penn State School of Forest Resources, 213 Ferguson Building, University Park, PA 16802. Phone 814-865-9351.